Welcome to 5-Minute Maths at DECV, where we learn a lot of maths in a little bit of time. Today's topic is decimal fractions. What do you know about this number? Pause for a minute or two and tell your supervisor. Did you come up with these ideas? Did you say that the number is 235 and 76 hundredths? If you did, that's brilliant. Did you say that 235 and 76 hundredths is more than 235, but not quite 236? Did you know that it's made up of 200 plus 30 plus 5 plus 7 tenths and plus 6 hundredths? Did you also know that we can say 7 tenths is 6 hundredths as 76 hundredths? Did you figure out that 235.76 is about here? That was pretty good too. You can say 235.76 as long as you know that the 7 tenths and 6 hundredths are fractional parts. Some people would have said 235.76. That has to stop now because 76 is always 7 tenths and 6 ones. But 7 tenths and 6 hundredths is very different. You have to say 76 hundredths. If you got those ideas in your discussion, you know a lot about fractions. This is what decimal fractions look like on a number chart. The decimal point is always between the ones and the tenths. Soon as you see a decimal point, you know that you're dealing with fractional parts. So the number is more than 235, but we haven't got enough to make 236. Now, just about every fraction you can think of can be expressed as a decimal fraction. Imagine that as 1 orange. Imagine that as a half an orange. How would you write that as a decimal fraction? Here we have 2 apples, which is 2 ones, and a half an apple. As a decimal fraction, 2.5. Even numbers that are not tenths, for example, this pizza would have been eighths, they can be expressed as a decimal fraction as well. So we don't have a whole pizza, but we do have a half a pizza. Now, it's convenient to express numbers in decimal fractions. Another way of looking at them is, here's our unit, and a unit can be huge and big and enormous, or it can be little. It's just the idea of one thing, and when we break them up, that one thing, into 10 equal parts, they become tenths. 10 tenths, as you can see, will always make one more unit. The other thing you need to listen for is the TH on the end of tenths and hundredths. Those are the ones that tell you that we're working in decimal fractions. Now, this is the other fascinating thing about decimal fractions. Tenths are bigger than hundredths. Here's our tenths. If you look at the screen before, there it is there. But when we chop our 1 into 100 pieces, the hundredths are smaller. That's an important idea to think about with fractions. When you look at the decimal fractions on the number line, they are the numbers that are in between 15 and 16. So if I was to take myself from 15, I'm not quite at 16 yet. I'm getting there. I'm about a third of the way. I'm about halfway. I'm nearly there at 15.8. Once you get to 15.9, you're not there. But once we get to 16, we are in the next whole number. And again, that all-important number chart where the decimal point gives us the idea that we're working with numbers that are between the 15 and the 16. Now, get a sense of where the numbers are. 11.5 is always going to be halfway. 15.2 is just you're starting your journey and you're close to 15, a bit of a way to go to 16. And 17.9 is close to 18. 21 and 1/10 is closer to 21. So that's how the numbers are organised. You can do those for yourself there. Can't look at these tenths often enough, but it's 1.5, which is the same as 1 and 1/10. 1 and 2/10, 1 and 2/10. You get the idea. There's a fraction with 8/10, 1 and 8/10 on it. So your main idea is to remember when you see a decimal point in the number, it's like a pair of scissors. It shows that we're finished working with the whole part of a number and we are working with equal parts of numbers in tenths, and those THs are important, hundredths or thousandths. And here's a few ways of looking at decimal fractions. For example, we have 3 ones, which is there. We have a half an apple, which is 0.5. And we have 3, but not quite 4. So that's where the decimals are very, very useful. And even fractions that are fifths can be expressed as decimals in tenths. Now, what do you need to know to be really good at working with decimal fractions? You've got to know that a decimal fraction is an equal part of a number. They are always expressed in tenths, hundredths or thousandths, and those are the part of the numbers that fall between the whole numbers. They are more than, say, 35, but less than 36. The decimal point is always between the ones and the tenths, and the decimal point is a signal to us that we're working with a part or a fraction of a number. And as with all fractions, they turn up in different ways, of the same number expressed in different ways. Thank you for your 7-minute maths today. Decimal fractions will keep you busy.